Good morning, good day, or good evening. My name is Eli Rowe, and this is the Middle-Aged Witch Podcast. Hello, my loves. Thank you for joining me. We are going to talk about dark feminine energy today, in keeping with our loose theme this month. So we've already covered the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and then next week we are talking about Lilith. But today is all about subverting everything we learned about the dark feminine archetype and delving into dark feminine energy. But first, I want to read a listener question from Jaybird, who is a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast. Now, to preface her question, she has recently had some health issues and she was having to take it easy and get some proper rest. And then it sort of brings us to her question. She says, my bed backs up to my side bedroom window where I've done some calm reflecting and just enjoyed the warmer breezes at night. And the more and more that I've been gazing out into my neighbor's front yard, the more I'm convinced that they have a dryad in their weeping cherry tree. I feel their presence deep in my soul. Now, this tree is not on my property, yet I feel like I should make some sort of offering, so I'm conflicted. How do I honor that spirit without actually making contact? I don't know this neighbor well at all. Our meetings are usually a friendly wave or a smile with a nod, but I absolutely feel that I should be doing something. Otherwise, why would this spirit have drawn me to it? Google has been no help, and the one book I have read on dryads, they place emphasis with physical contact on the tree. Any thoughts would be extremely helpful. Thank you, and hope you and yours are happy and healthy. This was such a cool question, and a really interesting situation. Dryads are tree spirits, and so they're very location-based. Obviously, they don't travel, they can't be encouraged or, tempted to relocate. And so trying to communicate with one who happens to be planted on private property is a bit tricky. Now, I have not encountered this situation before, and so I just suggested a couple ideas, and it is awkward since Jay doesn't really have a relationship with this neighbor. It would probably be weird if she knocked on the door and dropped off some fertilizer for this weeping cherry out of the blue. But I did think of a couple things that might be helpful. So first I suggested burning some incense on the front porch with the intention of, having the breeze carry it to this tree with her well wishes. I feel like this could be a really good, hi, how are you? Or also, trying to connect with the roots of this tree by simply grounding herself in her own yard and sending those energies out through the earth itself, which is a fabulous and lovely and wonderful conductor of energy. And I don't know if either of these ideas will work or how well, but I do hope that Jay gives us an update. Dryads are really interesting and pretty introverted in my admittedly limited experience. So I felt like a dryad, if he was making himself known to me, I would be all over that opportunity. So thank you so much, Jay, for reaching out. Now let's talk about dark feminine energy. Now first, maybe let's differentiate light feminine energy versus dark feminine energy. And I'm not the biggest fan of using nomenclature like light and dark, usually. You will never hear me use the term black magic. I think it's a bullshit term. But the fact of the matter is that these energies are neither good nor evil in and of themselves. So to use the term dark feminine does not at all, in any way, shape, or form, indicate that it's bad and that light feminine is good. So please don't come at me. I'm using common terminology so we don't confuse ourselves or anyone else. And I'm reclaiming this term a little bit because I will be goddamned if I'm going to allow anyone to imply anything nefarious about the dark feminine archetype, because we'll get into her. Moving on. So light feminine energy. This embodies qualities like, nurturing, compassion, wisdom, handling things gracefully. It's associated with the nurturing and the life-giving aspects of femininity. Imagine the gentle warmth of a dear friend, or the soothing embrace of a mother, or the wisdom of a grandmother. This is what we mean typically when we speak or call upon light feminine energy. However, both the light and dark feminine energies coexist within all of us, and this is what creates balance. The dark feminine, on the other hand, represents the fiery, transformational side of femininity. This is associated with qualities like intuition, emotional depth, sensuality, sexuality, power. Rather than being inherently bad or evil, it's part of the shadow side of the divine feminine. Not because it's nefarious or needs to be hidden, but because we tend to keep those aspects of ourselves hidden, for better or worse, usually worse. Embracing these traits about ourselves will empower us. It can help us feel more whole, more authentic. So embracing dark feminine energy is crucial for personal growth and empowerment. It represents the shadow side of divine femininity by teaching us about strength and transformation, by accepting the parts of ourselves that we might have suppressed or been scared to explore, such as anger and power and authenticity. We tap into this powerful force, and it helps us connect with our authentic self to reach our full potential. We have some really strong examples of the power of stepping into our divine feminine, dark feminine energy. But one of my favorites is the story of Persephone. Now, there are a lot of variations of this myth and the themes within it. But what is generally accepted is that Persephone was kind of a go-along girl. She was sunshine and daisies and universally liked, and she was a good girl, a popular girl, the literal embodiment of spring. Then she descends into the underworld with Hades. We're going to skip talking about him because this ain't his story. But to make a long story short, Persephone is taken to the realm of the dead, and over the course of the time that she spends there, she undergoes a radical internal and personal transformation. Persephone's journey represents the descent into the depths of the psyche, the exploration of the shadow self. Her time in the underworld symbolizes the dark aspects of femininity, like power, like transformation, like the acceptance of mortality, of growing older, of celebrating that, of taking strength in that. As she embraces her role as queen of the underworld, Persephone becomes a force to be reckoned with, embodying both light and darkness. She's not the get-along girl anymore. Now, ultimately, Persephone's story can teach us that embracing our shadow self is essential for that growth, for that wisdom, for that self-advocacy and self-discovery. And it reminds us that even in those darkest moments, there is potential for rebirth and renewal. And most of the time, it's necessary. It's also a reminder that being liked isn't always the best thing to be. As a Libra, this has been and continues to be a lesson that I endeavor to internalize. Because all of us, and especially women, we spend our lives having to, file down the sharp edges of our personality. We make ourselves softer and quieter, smaller. We don't want to be too much trouble. We don't want to make problems. We don't want to cause waves. We don't want to call attention to ourselves. This isn't good for us. And it isn't fair to those around us either. When we present a false version of who we are to other people, we can't pretend to be shocked when they finally see the real us and decide they don't like us. Because we can't hold the illusion forever. Eventually we are going to show our true colors, and people around us, our friends, our partners, are going to feel deceived. And frankly, they have a right to feel that way. We never gave them a chance to get to know the real us. We lied to them. And yeah, maybe they're the assholes for expecting us to be perfect all the time, but we could have spent that time and energy being who we really are and finding people who actually like us to begin with. I got a little deep into the weeds with that, but it's worth saying. I'm 45 years old. I don't have the time or the energy to entertain people with false versions of myself. Not anymore. Because that's all it is. It's entertaining people. That's putting on a performance. And that is an affront to all of the aspects of the dark feminine that reside in us, to hide who we truly are. Which brings me to another important part of celebrating and embracing the dark feminine, which is that we have got to celebrate our sexuality. Whether that means we are rabidly sexual or completely asexual or anything and everything in between, we have to acknowledge and honor those parts of ourselves and quit hiding them and pretending that they don't exist. I will link to the Sex Magic episode that we did back in whenever the hell we did it. I don't recall offhand, but the point is that our sexuality is a powerful part of our persona. We can create so much magic with an orgasm. So go back and either listen or read the transcript of that episode if you missed it, because we really do undermine our own potential when we ignore or suppress those parts of ourselves. But there are ways that we can celebrate and embrace our dark feminine energy. And it starts with self-reflection. Taking time to explore our inner landscape, journaling about our emotions. I know I say journaling like every week, but we've got to journal our emotions, our experiences, our behavioral patterns that we notice, understand which aspects of the dark and light feminine resonate with us. Try to figure out why that might be. Then there's acceptance. We have to embrace both energies without judgment. The dark feminine isn't bad, and the light feminine isn't good. They complement each other. We need them both. Acknowledge and honor our shadow side, celebrating our nurturing qualities. This is important. This is essential. I also like to always encourage mindfulness and meditation. Practice mindfulness to connect with our intuition and our emotions, to notice them, not to judge them, but to be actively aware of them as they happen. Meditation helps us to observe thoughts and feelings without attachments. We can allow a thought to come, notice it, take note, and let it go. It's important. And I think it's also important that we find a nature connection. Spend time in nature. Observe the cycles, the moon phases, the seasons, natural elements. Nature embodies both energies. It teaches us balance. And I spoke about this just last week or the week before. I don't remember. I talk a lot, but it's important because we have to allow nature to help us to respect our own extremes without judgment. A lion isn't bad and a gazelle isn't good. They both just are. And so are we. And then there's creative expression. And I suggested this before as well, but engage in creative activities. Write poetry, paint, dance, play music, sing, express both fierce and gentle aspects of ourselves, and don't allow feelings of insecurity or awkwardness to rob the joy of it. And then self-care. Nourish the whole body and the mind and the soul. Rest when it's needed. Hello, light feminine. Assert boundaries when they're needed. Hello, dark feminine. This is not spoiling ourselves. This is maintenance. We have to take care of ourselves. And lastly, I want to once again encourage shadow work. Dive into the shadow, the hidden, suppressed parts. I'm going to link the shadow work episode and also the mirror episode as well, because I hear a lot of lip service about shadow work in witchcraft, but we also have to just do the uncomfortable work of it. And we got into it in those episodes pretty deeply. But shadow work is really just about picking the scabs off those old wounds that can never seem to heal properly. It's cleaning them out, exposing them to fresh air and light. so that we can finally have some peace and some true healing. And when we are actively involved in the process of doing this work, that's when the dark feminine energy comes to the fore and feels welcomed and honored. That's when we can really be authentic. That's when we can do some really good magic, when we're not operating from a position of fear or of hiding. We are operating from a position of perfect acceptance. And that's the message of dark feminine energy. So, thank you for coming with me on this. We have one more week to go in July, and we will spend next Thursday talking about Lilith, who I feel is such a perfect embodiment, not just of the divine feminine, but also the divine masculine and the dark feminine energies. She is a crusader, and I'm thrilled to try and do her justice. So we will talk again soon. My name is Eli Rowe, and this has been the Middle-Aged Witch Podcast. May our troubles be less and our blessings be more, and nothing but happiness come through our door. The information presented is the author's opinion and does not constitute any health or medical advice. The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any condition or disease. Please seek advice from your healthcare provider for your personal health concerns.